Good morning, and congrats to you again.
Thank you.
Building a thriving economy isn't just about big industries. It starts with small businesses, local innovation, and entrepreneurial leadership. These small businesses are at the forefront of transformation, creating jobs, strengthening communities, and shaping the future of industries from food systems to finance. It requires public-private partnerships like the incredible Global Citizen Organization, partnering with corporations like PayPal, and we're a proud partner of Global Citizen. Revolutionize commercing globally is one of our key missions at PayPal, bolstering local businesses and nonprofit organizations to drive meaningful and sustainable impact in communities globally. To that end, I'm honored to join both Lydia and Ambassador Philip for this enriched conversation this morning, which I'm so excited to learn more about both of you and the incredible impact each of you have had on your communities. So with that, Lydia, we're gonna start with you.
Sure.
I know everyone just saw what we did and the incredible work that you've done, and congrats on that honor. We wanna learn more about the Ghana food movement. How have you got millennials and Gen Z excited about food systems, entrepreneurship, and community building?
Yeah, good question. So I have to start, like one of the questions that I get asked the most, I've been living in Ghana for 4 years, is, Lydia, why are you living in Ghana? Why have you not gone back to Germany? Because most young Ghanaians, they're looking abroad in search of a better life. And that question, it pains me, but at the same time, it excites me because, you know, the Ghana food movement, that's exactly what we're doing. We're creating these opportunities that young Ghanaians are looking for right here in Ghana, and we equip them with the tools to do so. So the Ghana food movement, it's a thriving organization. It's my family, my food family. We are scientists, nutritionists, chefs, lots of farmers, everybody who wants to make a change in the food system. And we do networking, capacity building for youth and women, and industry development. And at the core of it all is really highlighting our Ghanaian ingredients and filling it with pride and joy. And we have, for example, one event that is a food safari. It's my favorite event, actually. And we highlight one ingredient, and we look at it, and we follow it from farm to table. So we would go to a farmer, and so we would go with the tractor to the farmer, and then look at, okay, what varieties are grown? How does climate change, what impact does climate change have on the farm? Then we go to an agripreneur. What is he doing with it? He's turning the mango into jam, into mango butter. And then we have a chef, and he shows us, okay, you can make it solid, you can make it, you can ferment it. And that gets young Ghanaians really excited about entering into the food industry. And then we also have our food education hub, and that's really something that I'm also very excited about, because, you know, in Ghana, they built a lot with cement walls and with burglar-proof, but our food education hub is built transparent. Like, we have transparent glasses because we really wanted to create this atmosphere of, you know, you can look into the windows and see what's happening in the kitchen, what's happening in the office, so that it creates this atmosphere of exchanging and learning and really not gatekeeping, but helping each other out. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm excited. I want to participate.
You can join. I send you a membership.
All right. Ambassador, I would love to hear from you on, you know, what you believe the role of government is in helping more community-focused businesses flourish, especially in this digital economy.
Thank you so much, Amy. And I don't know if anybody else, I feel very hungry already, just from Amy's story, as from the story around I'm hearing from Ghana. I think that the Ghanaian story is a typical African story. That you have the average age of a farmer is about 60 years old. So I want the group to recognize what she's doing is quite remarkable. Because for a continent that has a median age of 19, it means she's really doing something extraordinary. And for a continent that is still hungry and that has 60% of the world's arable land, that's a serious business opportunity. And so I think what governments need to do is, one is, of course, provide enabling policy environment for the work that she's doing that is not necessarily even just trying to feed the continent, but it's trying to feed the continent in a very nutritious way. Food for me is an issue of, it's about dignity. It's no longer about just, it's not just a business. And so I think what she's doing is amazing. So governments, an enabling policy environment, provide the necessary infrastructure from farm to fork, farm to plate, farm to cup, and to ensure that food is affordable for citizens, but also farmers like her get the fair share of their price. The second thing I think for me is to de-risk the investment, because people do not want to invest in food. They want to invest in shiny little things. And so how do we ensure that we de-risk investment so that farmers and the food systems ecosystem has the necessary investments for that? The third one, of course, is infrastructure. You need to move the food to a table. You need to manufacture it. You need to add value, because in most cases, farmers don't get the value that they need around the food. I think finally, and that's where I come with my technology and innovation hat, is data. Farmers need data, whether it's around soil sampling, whether it's around logistics, whether it's weather, whether it's specific targeting, whether it's nutrition, whether it's logistics, because a farmer in Africa cannot afford a failed season. So that's really what I think governments need to do.
Thank you. Lydia, back to you. How has your experience with your family's cocoa farm in Ghana influenced your work to transform food systems?
Yeah, so I come from generations of cocoa farmers. And so my family, from my father's side, has been growing cocoa for decades. And I actually, matter of fact, I say I exist because of cocoa money. And so yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the cocoa. And it's really painful for me to see that my family is working so hard, but they're not getting anything in return that is helping them to somehow also advance in life or build a better life for themselves. So in 2021, I said, okay, I actually want to do something about it. And I moved back to my family's cocoa farm. And I looked at the cocoa pods, and I was thinking like, okay, they only extract the pulp, but there must be something more that we can do with the things that are usually discarded. So I took these byproducts and I turned them into tea. I took them, made them into soap, into cocoa paper, building materials. So, but for me it was more than just products. It was really about the message that there's value in discarded products, or what we have been taught to be trash. And that's when it hit me, because I think that sustainability isn't a luxury, though it's often taught that way in the West. People there in the West, they do it because they can afford sustainability. In Ghana, we do it because we have to. And so decolonization in Ghana really starts for me with moving from the scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, and seeing what we have, seeing all the resources that we have, and making beautiful things out of it. And in the end, that's why I started Plenty Plenty Africa. Is really, I want to go back to actually, one thing that also hurts me is when you look actually at colonial times, it was kind of dictated to Ghana, like how are you growing the crop? How are you growing cocoa? What is the value of it? And then it was just exported. And so Ghana grows all of the cocoa, and I don't know if you know, but Ghana is the second biggest exporter of cocoa, but we don't own any value. And that should not be the case. So that's what I'm doing with Plenty Plenty, is really reclaiming cocoa for Ghanaians and showcasing, what else we can do with it, and really giving Ghana its own shot at cocoa, and taking it back.
And it's so it's shocking to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think also there's a misconception that cocoa and chocolate are hand in hand, and we were talking, and it sounds like your family, maybe your grandmother, like literally had chocolate for the first time recently. Is that?
Yes. My mother, grandmother, she's in her late 90s, and I was there when she ate chocolate, the thing that she had been growing for 60 years, for the first time. So she didn't even know what she was producing it for, and that was a very emotional moment for me. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. Ambassador, we know small businesses are a force of good. How can innovations in technology, which you are obviously an expert in, help more entrepreneurs like Lydia start and scale their business?
I think, and Lydia, I'm sure, and congratulations again. I think this is really an amazing story. And the challenge of the continent is we do not necessarily get to tell these stories in the way that it's told in a very authentic way. And I think what technology does is, one, do that. It can actually do that. It can tell an African story in a very authentic way from her mouth, not somebody else trying to interpret the meaning of a story. The second part, of course, is in the age of exponential. It's easier now for Lydia and her team to do what a big manufacturing company could have done previously. And so I think that's what IC technology does. Of course, the third thing is around understanding your own value chain, owning these value chains that we're talking about, being able to accelerate a lot of the work that you're doing, being able to even multiply the value chains, because I think that's always been the challenge. And I love this historical perspective, because part of what the African continent has been struggling is the burden of history that has been exclusion from opportunity. And so the more we harness technology, the more we begin to show the opportunity, because part of this world, and Lydia requires a market somewhere else, is yes, to be independent, but in an age of interdependence. But that interdependence must come from a position of power. And that's what I think the African ecosystem has been able to do in terms of innovation and innovativeness, because we are building our own technologies. You're in PayPal, we have M-Pesa. So we've been able to do this quite easily. And so we hope that we can have more collaboration around technology, and hopefully governments like ours, but also talking to your government, we can be able to support a lot of the African innovators, because 80% or 85% of African businesses are small and medium enterprises. Majority of those businesses are family businesses. And so I think that is where I see we need to invest more.
And I'm going to throw one more your way, because I'd be remiss if I didn't ask how you think artificial intelligence will evolve things immensely for businesses like Lydia and so many others.
Well, that's another
We could spend 15
conference.
minutes on that alone, right?
I think a part of it, and part of the African experience around AI, and that's something that I'm trying to drive with a couple of friends, Strive Mashui and Cassava Technologies, is one, to ensure that Lydia and her fellows are able to access AI capability, whether it's compute in a way that is affordable, because interesting enough is this technology, the more you scale, the more you pay. So how do you ensure that it makes sense for Lydia and her grandmother, whose profit margins can be hit simply by accessing compute? The other part, of course, is talent. How do you ensure that we can build a sovereign AI ecosystem that Lydia, who does not necessarily have the R&D capacity as a startup, can leverage on universities and African universities to do that? The other part, of course, is the data, right? How do we ensure that countries like ours with other countries, Africa has 2,000 languages plus dialects. And it's not anywhere in any of the large language models. So how do you ensure that we build small language models that are able to support very specific aspects of what Lydia is doing? And the fourth part, which comes to her narrative and the story, is the use cases bit. How do you continue to shine a light on the use cases so that you can show how AI actually works in Africa? So that's what I'm working on with a couple of colleagues, and hopefully we can have many people join the movement.
Well, we're excited to see more what's to come there. All right, well, this has been a wonderful discussion. Lydia, thank you so much. Ambassador Thigo, thank you for participating in today's discussion. I'm excited to see what the continued impact of this work across Africa, and it certainly will have a ripple effect around the world. So thanks again.